Hey everybody, this is Mike Young. This is going to be a really interesting video, I think, so don't turn it off if you're not a car person, because I just explained this to my wife Denise yesterday. If you don't know me, I started a YouTube channel back in 2016 called thedigitalnomad.net. After that, a few years, I started the Tesla High Mileage Club. You can find us at teslahighmileageclub.com. And I'm going to put this video on those YouTube channels and also on some of the other social media we have for the High Mileage Club, because looking at this car behind me, you can see that it can rack up the miles pretty fast if it's going to be able to do what it looks like it's going to be able to do. And that's what we're going to talk about, because I did a video earlier this year where I explained what we know about the Tesla Roadster. But since then, I've done a lot of research, and this is my best guess. Keep in mind, it's my best guess, and I welcome your comments. All the rocket scientists out there, I welcome your input too, to let me know if I'm off base on any of this. But I think it's going to be a very eye-opening video for everybody, including and especially if you're not a car person. That's the thing. Because, if you know the history of this model, the original proof of concept for the Tesla company was the original Roadster. And now that was built on a Lotus Elise chassis, and they just kind of stuffed a battery pack in there. And I think it was just a rear drive motor at the time. And at the time they were working on the RAV4 EV compliance vehicle for California. I think they integrated a lot of that same technology in there, and they learned a lot from working with Toyota. And as soon as they realized this was actually going to work and they could sell these things, and they did, I think that was like a $100,000 car. It was small, it was a fun car, but it had a lot of limitations. It couldn't supercharge and utilize any of the infrastructure that we know of today in 2026. So they discontinued that, and they subsequently stopped supporting it too, which I know a lot of people weren't too happy about that at the time. But now they're collector's items, so I don't think you have to worry about that too much. But this new Roadster, and you can see it behind me, was unveiled in, I think, 2018, 2017, somewhere around there. And Denise and I went to the Model Y unveiling in 2019, I think it was. And we saw this Roadster right there, that red Roadster. We saw it there alongside the Semi and other things that weren't yet in production. And it's still not in production. So a lot of people have said this is vaporware. They said, Elon Musk lies, and this is never going to happen. Now, remember, I don't have any way to confirm the information I'm going to give you, but I do believe it's fairly accurate. I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't believe that. And I do believe it's shocking information. It's groundbreaking information. And I think that this new Roadster is truly going to make all other performance cars, including the ones that are being hyped today, because I see a lot of high-end electric vehicles that are hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Chinese, from companies in Israel, and so on and so forth, which are highly capable. But as you'll see from watching this video, they can't do anything that I think that the new Roadster is going to be able to do. And I'd be surprised if they even sell any as a base models. And we'll get to the difference here between the base model and the SpaceX package, because what you see behind me is SpaceX technology. And that's what's going to make all the difference here. So from what we understand, I believe the base model is going to be about $150,000, which is the same price as they were selling the Farewell Model S and Model X vehicles built at the mothership in California, in Fremont. That's where my vehicle was built to in 2017. I still have it. Original battery pack, original motors, original brakes, and original windshield. So if you don't believe me, go to teslahighmileageclub.com and learn more. But everything else has been replaced on the car. It's just that all those parts are still original. They've done an amazing job with the driveline. So those were $150,000 on the way out a month or two ago. They produced the last of them, sent them out, and now this vehicle is going to be $150,000 base price. This is without the SpaceX package. So forget about all the rockets or the boosters, the cold gas thrusters, what they're called. Forget about those. That's not on the base model. But the base model should do what they're saying. Well, this is actually the performance model, 250 miles an hour plus. This is SpaceX package. Under 8 seconds quarter mile, and under 1 second to 60. Now, my guess is the base model is going to do about 2 seconds, 0 to 60, maybe less. It'll probably be faster than the X and S ever were, is my guess. And I think they've said 620 miles of range with a 200 kilowatt battery pack. Maybe it's a double stack. I'm not sure exactly how they're putting it together, but that's the base model. All right, so the base model is going to be probably, blow away the performance of the outgoing S and X Plaids. It'll probably accelerate faster and have dramatically longer range and probably better handling, I would think, overall, since it's purposely built as a two-door. And, Tesla's never actually built a chassis of just a two-door on their own because that was a Lotus Elise chassis for the original Roadster. So where do we go from here? That sounds like a great car, right? The base model. But I think as you learn what I think I know about the SpaceX package, I don't think anyone's going to buy the base car. If you can afford 150 grand, I know the outgoing S and X were only by invitation only to independently wealthy people, basically. So I didn't get the invitation. Although, like I said, we went to the Model Y unveiling. You can find it on my YouTube channel, digitalnomad.net, if you search up Model Y unveiling. It was we got a video of the whole thing there. And actually, I even got to talk to Elon Musk that time and asked him about the Model Y, if it had a third row seat. And it did, but it was optional, and then they eventually dropped it. Now you got the Model Y L, right, that has captain's chairs in the second row and a real room in there for the third row seat. But that's another video. So on this video, let's talk about what's going to happen, what the difference is between SpaceX and Tesla. Now, this car is a true convergence of technology like you've never seen before. It's not just a car, in my opinion anyway. So SpaceX isn't just a space company, believe it or not. SpaceX owns Starlink. If you didn't know that, you got to know this for this video here for all the details. They own XAI, the AI company. And what was the other thing that they own? XAI, Starlink, and Grok. That's right. Grok is an LLM, language learning model, or whatever they call these interfaces for the AI, right? So this car is going to incorporate technology from SpaceX, technology from Grok, technology from XAI, and technology from Starlink, all interconnected to make this incredible system that has never existed before. So this is probably the first product that's going to be coming out from this convergence, and I'm sure there'll be many more products in the near future. But for now, it's going to make all these other Rimac, that's the company in Israel, their $500,000 to $1 million vehicle, and all these Chinese companies, BYD, whoever, they're going to make those products irrelevant. They're going to realize that they have decades of catching up to do when this thing gets unveiled. Now, this thing has been delayed forever, like a lot of Tesla products. And just to put it out there, we did go to the Model Y unveiling in 2019, Ides of March, I think it was. And that was the first product that Tesla actually launched ahead of schedule. It did launch ahead of schedule. If you don't believe me, look it up, do your research. Now, this product is way behind. But like I said, they probably could have produced the base model a long time ago to have the tri-motors, like in the Plaid, right? All the technology's there. And it'll be an amazing car. But all these other companies have amazing cars. So who cares, really? And 150,000's, it's probably in line with, well, it's still a bargain, actually, when you look at what the competition is charging. And I know the Chinese EVs aren't allowed in the US, but I know a lot of people complain about that. But, do you really want to give all your money to a country that may, let's say, underpay their workers and make them suffer? I know a lot of people don't talk about that when they say they want Chinese EVs in the U.S. We don't know how they're all treated, right? I think that it's better to give this your money to an American company, in my opinion, who's producing their cars here in the U.S. And of course, Tesla is the most American car company, highest U.S. Assembled, and not just assembled, but produced parts content of any vehicle, pretty much. So that's what Tesla is, and they've got all this technology. And of course, if you don't know about SpaceX, one thing you do need to know to make sense of all this is how powerful their technology is. They've been able to land the large, giant rocket boosters onto a chopsticks setup of the original launch pad, going in reverse. They've also been able to land the smaller boosters that detach backwards and standing up onto landing pads that don't have anything like a chopsticks. And all this using, basically imaging and vision and connecting with computers to make sure that everything's done perfectly, because that has to be done perfectly or it's going to blow up. I think we all know that. Those are really powerful rockets with lots of jet fuel. They're going to blow up if anything goes wrong. So on this car, Now, I wasn't sure what this was. This is why I wanted to do the research. I said, okay, 0 to 60 in under 1 second. It's going to have a big rocket booster on the back. Well, where is it? There. There. The license plate drops down like James Bond. Excuse me. Let me get up. Okay, the license plate, sorry, on the cord there. License plate drops down like James Bond. You see it there under Roadster, and then of course this giant rocket comes out, right? And there's a flames and everything. It looks like just like the Hollywood movies. Only that's not going to happen. Excuse me. All right, it's not going to happen because there's not going to be any rocket fuel. It's not going to be a one-time party trick. It's something that I didn't even understand until I started researching this video. And you can see right there, it's called the SpaceX Cold Gas Thruster System. So what these blue things are, they're not flames. It's actually just air. It's air. That's all it is, all right? But it's complicated, like everything else. Now, let's go back to performance cars for a second, or any car for that matter. Now, I'm kind of a car person, and people roll their eyes over and don't want to hear me after a while, but as long as I've been alive, and I've been alive for 56 years, grew up in the 70s and 80s, the best cars were all about balance in some regard, whether that's the engine, the transmission, the chassis, the suspension, the braking, the handling, the overall thing. When the car was amazing, it would do all these things well all at the same time. So balance. So we've needed mechanical engineers to put all this together in just such a way and tune it just right so that everything felt great when you're driving down the road. And especially when you're hitting potholes, because that might mess you up too. So you've got all kinds of technology that's come out over the years, like active suspension systems are kind of the latest thing. And actually that was new in the 80s. They just never really developed that much. I don't think they were ever that good. But all the stuff kind of acted in isolation and wasn't part of an overall system. Now, if you go to Tesla FSD, you remember on Tesla cars, right here between the front tires and the front door, there's a camera facing backwards. Windshield has like 3 cameras facing forward. Front bumper now on hardware 4 and above has a camera facing forward. And in the back, the rear camera faces backward, and then the B pillar has cameras looking forward. So that's a system for guiding the car with computers, right? We're seeing it now in Austin, Texas, Miami, Florida, San Francisco, I think Washington State. They're expanding to other areas too. And they are getting these cars on the road, and kind of like Elon Musk said all along, that LiDAR would be a fool's errand. And apparently it is, because Tesla and the Cybercab, they don't use any LiDAR. They just use these 8 cameras I just pointed out to you. All right, that's the system. It's been the system since the beginning. I didn't understand it either when I first got my car in 2017. Most people didn't even know what FSD was and thought that Elon Musk was insane. I remember those times. But then when I got the car and I realized how all these systems are integrated, I was like, wow, this is going to be great. Because all you got to do is upgrade some of the hardware occasionally, software a lot as you're iterating software, differences over time. And it's all visual, just like humans driving cars, except I don't have eyes in the back of my head. You don't need mirrors or anything like that. So this thing with the cold gas thruster system is going to be like FSD, only for the way the car actually connects with the road or the air. And actually, that's why I call it the flight control system. So the SpaceX car is going to have a flight control system. I know Elon Musk has joked in the past about the car leaving the ground potentially. I think it will be able to leave the ground as long as it's within the law. And this is where all the integration of systems comes into place, because you need something to know where the car is, what's allowed, if there's pedestrians nearby or other people that may be injured. And that's why, you got the visual cameras, of course, but you also need constant connectivity through SpaceX, regardless of where you are, through Starlink, in addition to the over-the-air line of sight cellular mobile towers, which all Tesla cars are already connected to. And if you're new to Tesla, that's how this FSD works, is it connects with the cellular towers. This car, I think, is probably going to do both. It probably needs a backup system. It needs not only the cellular systems, but something even more accurate. It won't work in tunnels and under bridges, but it's going to be more accurate, which is a Starlink system for just knowing everything about where the car is, and not doing just the driving system, but a flight control system. All right, you got to stay with me if you've never thought about this before, if you've never considered what might be possible, because obviously this is possible. All right, I'm not just thinking it can't be done now. It can be done now. If SpaceX can land these rockets in reverse, not only back onto chopsticks that pop out on launch pads, but back down to just flat launch pads with nothing to hold the rockets up. They land in balance. You can be that precise. So you'll be able to put a flight control system on something like this, a super fast, hypercar. All right, so how's it going to work? I just described how in the past and even currently, mechanical engineers will balance every aspect of the car, meaning braking, acceleration, handling, downforce, and they haven't done flight yet, but this one is going to be doing flight. So how's it going to power this? How's it going to work? Okay, this sounds possible. You may be thinking that, okay, Mike, this sounds possible now, but how are they actually going to get this done? Well, first of all, SpaceX is a rocket company. They use cold gas thrusters in some applications. I think probably positioning things in outer space. I don't know if you know more about this. If you're a rocket scientist, then please comment below. But here's what I have found. Cold gas thruster system. Apparently, if you get the SpaceX package, and remember, I think everyone's going to get the SpaceX package. I think it's going to be another $100,000 for a $250,000 car. And I think it's going to be an absolute bargain when you compare it to what else is out there, like I was saying, for hundreds of thousands or $1 million cars that can do way less. All right, so you got to have this tank. All right, now this tank is the heart of that system. Basically, everything's going to run off compressed air. It's kind of like a, you know what these air compressors are if you have a tool or a workshop in your house? Well, these things are going to just utilize air. So you need a tank with a super air pressure to force this car, to push this car in all directions, basically, okay? That's what it's going to do. It's going to push. So you can already tell, and I could tell before, that the under 1 second acceleration time is going to happen by a rocket thruster, a cold gas thruster, pushing out the back under the license plate, like James Bond style. Like I said, okay, that's no problem. I can imagine that. They can do that, right? But they're going to take it way, way further than that, if you ask me. They're going to have this tank. So you have to pull out the back seat. You will lose the back seat when you get the SpaceX package for $100,000 more, approximately anyway. This tank will be in its place. This tank will have a life of 15 years. From what I understand, these tanks, they hold 10,000 PSI, and they only have a life of 15 years. After that, it's mandatory replacement after 15 years. So just know that that cost is going to be there, but still, when you learn what this car is going to be able to do and how it's going to do it, it won't matter, okay? So there's some other things about it here you can read, but basically, you need an air compressor to run, not constantly, every so often to keep this thing topped off or near the top of the 10,000 PSI. So you're going to have a couple issues with that. I know Denise was saying, well, how are you going to get all the power to run the air compressor? Well, you got a 200 kilowatt double stack battery pack, most likely. You're going to have enough. Unless you're, I don't know, flying all the time, you may need to come down for a recharge. I don't know. But I think that it'll be fine for the uses that people are actually going to use in the real world. You'll have enough battery to recharge that. Now, it's not going to be able to charge this all the time because when you run the compressor to fill this tank, all right, with air at 10,000 PSI, you're generating tremendous amounts of heat, amazing amounts of heat. You've got to keep it cool. So you already know if you have a Tesla and you go supercharged like I do all the time because I have SCO1 and I've got almost 5,000 supercharging sessions, that air conditioner starts running on high when you're supercharging. Same thing here. When this air compressor is running to fill this tank, it's generating massive amounts of heat. It's got to run that air conditioning system. They'll probably have a heavy-duty system in there. Keep it cool. It won't be able to run all the time either. It'll have to only cycle on and off so it doesn't produce too much heat that is not able to be tamed. And this thing will have to be separated from the passengers in the back, where the back seat used to be, so that all that heat is contained. Now, it's not just heat, it's cold too. From what I understand, again, if you're a rocket scientist, go ahead and comment down below. But from what I understand, when you let the air out of these thrusters, these nozzles or whatever, it's incredibly cold when it's coming out of the tank. It's super hot going in, incredibly cold coming out. So that tank's going to have to handle ridiculous amounts of hot and cold. Everything around that tank is going to be exposed to it also, so they're going to have to make sure it's totally isolated. And like I said, 15 years maximum. So that's how you're getting the air pressure. So in other words, it's not a party trick. You don't have to refuel with rocket fuel every once in a while at, I don't know, $2,000 to refill, and you don't want to use it. This is going to be all the time, integrated and built into the car, constantly running as a system that's controlled by AI. because it's going to have to be, because otherwise you'll melt the car down from the heat, or you'll freeze everything, maybe from the cold. And in addition to that, you're going to need intelligence, because if you, apparently, this is what I understand, if you just let a continuous stream of air out of these nozzles around the car, not only is it super cold, you can't blast anybody, you got to use your Starlink and other technologies to make sure that it's legal in the area, and this car will not allow you to do anything illegal, which is great, because I'm sick and tired of hearing the loud mufflers, which is illegal, but they're everywhere. And as long as nobody's there writing up a ticket, they're going to keep going. Not the case with this car. You won't be able to do that. But you don't want to let a constant stream of air going out, because it pierces your ears. It causes all kinds of other bad harmonics. So from what I understand, it's not going to be a constant stream of air. It's going to be pulsing, right? Pulsing airwaves coming out. Still going to move the car exactly the way they want to do it, in all directions. Whatever direction they need moved, they'll move it. It just will do it in a way that won't harm people, right? Because usually this technology is reserved for outer space. Correct me if I'm wrong, these are positioning satellites in outer space, or space stations, or whatever it might be, and nobody cares. Nobody's out there hanging around. But down here on Earth, people are hanging around, and you've got to make sure that you're not going to be harming these people. So all this is controlled by computer again. Now, what can it do? What's this thing going to be capable of doing? And where are these cold thrusters going to be? I think that this is going to be similar to the FSD system, where it's good, because FSD, if you think about it, if you want to get a real simple description of FSD, it's a visual system with 8 or 9, I'm not sure how many they have on the latest version, I think it's 9 on hardware 4 or hardware 5, overlapping cameras that cover 360 degrees, all directions, and they overlap. Now, these boosters will probably be able to do something similar, where they'll be able to move the car in any direction at once. They'll be positioned correctly so that they can do that, and they'll be facing at least one booster in all directions, meaning one facing up, you can see there in the roof, one facing down at least, and sideways facing, front facing, and of course back under the license plate, James Bond style, like we were saying. So what will these things be capable of doing? Well, of course, you know that they're going to be able to push that car to 60 miles an hour in under 1 second. Well, you know that. You haven't seen it. I don't think anyone's actually seen that happen yet before, because all the other cars are going to be half the speed. They're going to be about 2 seconds to 60. And the reason why is because of physics, and the tires, because this car has rubber tires, as you see. And rubber tires can't necessarily accelerate with the G-force they need to reach that speed that quickly. And the reason why is because they're going to lose grip. Why are they going to lose grip? Because there's just not enough mass or downforce on the car to hold them there at the right time, at the right amount too. It has to be perfect, right? Because if you hold the car down too much, it'll crush the tires. If you don't do it enough, they'll spin on themselves, they'll lose traction, and they'll eat themselves alive at those kind of G-forces. And from what I understand, in order to do 0 to 60 in under 1 second, you're going to have a G-force approaching 3 Gs, almost 3 Gs of force continual from 0 to 60 miles an hour. That's going to be hard enough to take as a human, but it's definitely going to destroy your tires unless you can figure out a way that's going to produce and push the exact amount of downforce onto the car at all moments, constantly variable, so that the tires do not slip and they don't have too much force to crush the tires under the weight of the downforce. It has to be balanced perfectly. And of course, how are you going to do that? With AI, right? You're going to have super powerful computers. You can have all that AI technology, and it's going to have to know what it's doing and constantly adjust, just kind of like those SpaceX rockets that land themselves, right, when they're standing up. So they already have the technology. Now, who else has this technology? I don't think anybody does. So no one's going to be able to produce these products for some time. But you can imagine, if you've got a rocket booster there coming out of my head, a cold gas thruster pushing or firing upwards at just the right amount, while the back one is firing outwards, and you get the pedal to the metal or whatever, you're getting all the force from the electric motors, and you balance that out, because a human would make one little mistake. You would not be able to do it. But you can talk. Apparently, you'll be able to talk to this car through Grok, say, "Hey, Grok, put me in launch mode. I want to go to 60 miles an hour as fast as possible, straight ahead. 3, 2, 1, go." And it'll probably just do the whole thing at your command, though. At your command. This is the last car that Tesla says they're making for actual human drivers. So you're going to command that. All right. It's not going to be just about FSD full level 5 autonomy because they've got all their other cars to do that. Those are money makers. Those are taxis, right? Robo-taxis. This thing is going to just be a thrill machine, I'd say, probably, and a flying car, basically, all right? Because I know people have said, where are the flying cars? It's 2026. That's a good question. But I think this is going to be the flying car. This is the reason for all the delays after delays, because I know originally, even this year, it's supposed to be unveiled in April. And now here we are in July. And I think hopefully it'll happen next month. And I know that Elon Musk has said this is going to be the most spectacular product launch ever. And if you're following me in this video, and comment down below if you are, let me know what's most interesting to you so far. I think you can agree it will. And it may not work, though. That's the problem. I mean, some of the SpaceX stuff blew up too, right? I mean, that could happen with this car. I don't know. Although there's no rocket fuel. So there's a lot less chance of something catastrophic going wrong. Although maybe it just won't work. I don't know. All right, so back to the acceleration. You got this thing going up, like blasting the cold gas, the air up, and then the one in the back blasting out. What you're going to do is that computer is going to get just the right amount, perfect balance on these tires to launch you in under a second to 60. That's the only way that I know that you could ever even consider doing that, because this is faster accelerating than any Formula One car or any hypercar that's available. I think the Formula One cars won't even do 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. They're like 2.5. And they all have special racing technology. This thing will do, more than twice as fast as a Formula One car, so much less money than those other hypercars, and it's going to do it perfect every single time. The only thing is that something's in your way, but then you're going to have FSD and all the cameras and the AI. It's not going to let you accelerate into something that's going to cause a disaster or something like that, right? It won't let you do that. That's the thing. So many of the OG performance cars, right? They have all this raw power, sound, everything. Like I said, the sound offends people. The sound just ruins your hearing. I mean, it just sounds obnoxious, actually. And there's nothing that you can do to stop that other than a police officer writing you a ticket. This car is just not going to let you behave that badly. It's just going to be a good time all the time. All right, now one of the issues with Tesla cars, especially the Plaids, especially when they first came out in 2021, I think it was that they couldn't stop. And not with all that power. They couldn't stop all that power at full acceleration or panic stops at 90 miles an hour because they just got to 90 miles an hour in 2.5 seconds or whatever the case might be. So there's instances of, brake fluid boiling, which it does, all right, and just not being able to stop the car, horrific crashes. Believe me, just search the internet if you don't understand what happened there. It was really bad. I know in Tampa there was a particularly bad one where the car got airborne and crashed through the roof of a house, killing a lot of people, all because of what I just told you. It couldn't stop, all right? Or the car let the owner take it down a road that it knew ended and wouldn't be able to stop because it didn't have all the smart technology, not to this level. Because I know people say, oh, Tesla's got all this thought and engineering. Well, not to this level, not this level of system integration. This car won't let you do that. At least this is all my opinion. Again, let me know in the comments what you think. So if you got to stop fast, what are you going to do? Yes, it's probably going to still have mechanical brakes, but it's going to have these forward-facing cold gas thrusters that are just going to blast air forward and just grind you to a halt, almost like airplanes reversing engines. And I did a little research here, and actually, believe it or not, airplanes don't reverse engines, even though it sounds like it. What they do is they open flaps on the sides of their jet engines to divert the air out the side and up around to the front instead of letting that air go in the back. So it does act the same as a reversed engine. But that's what this is even better. This is even better than an airplane, okay? Because airplanes don't have this kind of systems integration. They don't have this kind of AI. They require pilots with all these ridiculous amounts of gauges and switches and levers and all these things that they're constantly adjusting to maintain that balance to make sure there aren't any problems. This car is going to do it itself. Can you imagine? I don't even know what the specs are about how fast this thing's going to stop, but these cold gas thrusters and the firing forward, but you'll be able to stop on a dime, literally. And of course, the side, if you're going to take a corner real fast, there's been a problem also with some of these Plaid cars where the handling just isn't there. If the braking wasn't there, the handling sure wasn't there either. You just lose control off into the weeds or whatever. And this isn't going to let you do that. It's going to fire those cold gas thrusters. It's going to push you away from danger. And it's going to know it's approaching. All of these, remember, the SpaceX technology, the Starlink technology, the XAI technology, and the Grok, where you communicate, you talk to Grok to tell it what you want the car to do. And I'm sure Grok will talk back and say, hey, I have to abort, I'm turning this way. And then, of course, all disaster is averted. You don't even notice it. It happens so fast. You can't, if only airplanes could do this. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, the flight control system. So look, the flight control system, it explains here basically the general idea of what's happening. And you can see how there's stuff in all directions, right? That's where the cold gas thrusters, and they're all integrated. All this technology is integrated with AI. So this is like, I would think, the future of flight. And so that, speaking of flight, let's get to the last part of this. Actually, I got to remember to talk about insurance after this. You're probably going to wonder who the hell's going to insure this car. So you're going to have probably thrusters on the bottom. This is what Elon Musk was talking about before. I'm just speculating. I don't know. But if you got thrusters in all of the directions, and I explained to you why you would want to, I think that they're going to integrate all these. Because at first I heard 10 rocket thrusters, cold gas thrusters. There's going to be 10 thrusters lined up on the back bumper just pushing this thing forward. Well, actually, you don't need that. Apparently, if you have 10,000 PSI of air, you're only going to need probably that one to move it forward, I think. I don't know. Maybe there'll be two or three on the back. But the rest of them are going to be in all different directions, like the cameras for FSD. So you could use some to lift the car up and fly. And you might be saying, well, Mike, how are you going to do that? You can't just fly. I mean, you got to file a flight plan if you're an airline or whatever. But if all these systems are integrated, and the car knows you're in an area that you can take flight in, there's no air traffic, it's not restricted. Let's say you've got an emergency, you got to get to the hospital. Let's say you've got to leap over traffic because it's at a standstill for the next 3 miles. You could just fly. Just have Grok, get you permission to fly to this destination and send you there. It could do that, right? I mean, we're talking drones are going to be delivering all your food apparently and merchandise from now on. Why can't you just get the car to fly like this too, with you and all your stuff in it? All right. I mean, I don't think it'll do long distances, because even with a 200 kilowatt battery pack, you're going to need to come down off the air to do that. Plus, I don't know what the response time of the existing air traffic control system or flight plan filing is. Let me know if you know that. But there's all kinds of challenges also with Tesla FSD and getting regulatory approval, and that's happening. It's happening. Tesla's got lots of experience now, not only in the United States but in other countries, and I think it's only a matter of time. We'll figure all this out once you have these systems, and there's some redundancy built into the systems, and that's true with all Tesla cars, by the way. Even with FSD, with my old school human driver one, the steering has I think some redundancy, has 2 motors or something like that. There's some redundancy in the wiring. There's redundancy. There's 2 motors for the power steering that turn the wheel is what I'm getting at. There's a front and a rear motor too. So if one of the drive motors goes out, there's redundancy there. All you need is just the correct amount of redundancy. People realize that these systems are correct, designed correctly, and will work correctly. And all this stuff, this is stuff that you could never do as a human. Because I know a lot of the shade that people throw out about Tesla FSD is like, hey, I don't trust this computer. It's going to drive me over a cliff or whatever. I'm like, there's been so many times in the 9 years I've owned my car, I'm the original owner, that I have tried to change lanes, and someone was in my blind spot, and the car just jerked me back in my lane. And all it takes is one time. And I don't have eyes in the back of my head. I can't look at everything all the time. I get tired after a while of driving too. So this is the future. I mean, I don't know what you all think, but let me know in the comments. I think that this is going to be the beginning of flying cars. Like I said, I don't think that anyone is going to buy the base model, because it's not really that much more of a leap over what you could have bought with S and X Plaids. It's going to be most of the same stuff. And all this stuff, other stuff, I mean, it may be a lot like some of the Tesla FSD where it wasn't quite ready prime time, but they released it anyway. But this, they really got to know what they're doing. And like I said, they've already landed rockets backwards, all right? Standing up and balancing them too on the way down with nothing holding them up when they turn the engines off. If they can do that, don't you think they can do this? I would think so. I think they'll get regulatory approval. And I think it'll be like nothing else anyone has in terms of all this technology integration from these 2 companies. I know there's also been a lot of talk about Tesla and SpaceX merging in the near future, or SpaceX buying Tesla or something like that. I don't know. But, it's just another thing. I remember back 9 years ago when I bought my car, and I was looking into them before that, so maybe 10 years ago, nobody understood this stuff. Nobody had any idea what was about to happen. Anybody who did know anything just complained and said, this is never going to happen, it's never going to work, it's all lies, that kind of thing. And it's taken a little while longer, but it's here. And, in the meantime, SpaceX has learned to land rockets on their own, and balance them. And this is I think, the next step along this path. And I think that almost nobody knows this is happening. I'm sure there's people at the companies, the engineers that are working on this stuff, they know what's happening, but I don't think anybody else does. And it'll be a shock, I think, to a lot of people when this gets unveiled in August. So the last part I want to mention is insurance. Yeah, who is going to insure this thing? You have to have insurance for a car, right? You're going to get a flying car with rockets in all directions and someone's going to insure that? Now, it may be that nobody's going to insure this car, except for Tesla. If you know about Tesla, they've vertically integrated almost everything, including insurance. So they have their own insurance company. And of course, they're basing their insurance rates off of your actual driving experience from all the telemetry. They have better telemetry in all their vehicles than anybody. Telemetry, if you don't know what that is, it's basically where they can see exactly what's going on. Everything's connected to the internet. They have cameras in all directions. They have sensors that can see what's going on if you hit something or not. Whether they see it or not, the telemetry will inform them what happened. So they know. Now, this car is not going to allow you to hit things, right? Not like other Tesla cars or drive out of control or whatever. I mean, it may feel out of control, but it'll always be in control. It may be one of the least expensive cars to insure, actually, from that perspective. It could probably get out of the way. If someone's barreling towards you, say like about to T-bone you, you could probably just fire one of the cold gas thrusters and get out of the way. Can your car do that? Yeah, it probably can't. Now, Tesla has their own insurance company, so as long as they believe in what they're doing, and I know that they do, they'll be able to insure it at a reasonable rate. So I say don't worry about that. I don't think that's going to be an issue. It seems kind of hard to believe, but I think these things are getting safer and safer. And, Tesla has always made the safest vehicles. It's one of the things that they've talked about, how, why they haven't done any formal advertising or almost none. They don't do any today that I know of. They just spend the money on the engineering. And you can see, this is a big engineering project. This is something that no other company can do, or no other two companies, I'd say, anywhere. And when's going to be a time when someone can follow this up? I don't know. I mean, I would say they're at least 10 years ahead of everybody else, maybe 20. I don't know. I mean, even with the robotaxi, the cybercab, the imminent release of FSD, hopefully worldwide, and all Tesla has to do is download the software or make sure the hardware is installed first that you need, and then download the software to all their millions of vehicles on the road. And they're way ahead of everybody else in that category too. I think that most people don't realize that. They think that, oh, there's other ways of doing the full self-driving. Just look at this Waymo car with the spinning LiDAR on the roof. It looks ugly. It messes up the aerodynamics. It costs an amazing amount of money. Plus, you got to produce all the vehicles to catch up to somebody that's already got millions of vehicles on the road that could be instantly capable of becoming, autonomous robotaxis, income earners or assets. Instead of a depreciating asset, it'll be a appreciating asset. I know they've talked about that for a while, and most people didn't believe that would ever happen. But I still got my car; it still runs. I was hit twice. It is pretty safe. Didn't get injured, and the car still rolls. So far, I say that nothing that Tesla has done has surprised me, except for the fact that it's taken too long. Now, this is going to be such a leap, I think, when we see this next month, that, people might say, oh, okay, well, they're not going to build it for 10 more years. I don't think so. I think they said once they release the car, and they keep pushing back the unveiling date because they know that if they can't demonstrate it, they're not going to be ready for production. I think they're saying within 1 to 2 years after the unveiling that the car will actually be, deliveries will happen. So, and of course, just so you know, this also, I'm sure, will integrate a lot of the technology from Cybertruck. And I know Cybertruck looks like a rolling dumpster, a lot of you say, but the biggest thing about Cybertruck is not the looks, it's the fact that it's 48-volt architecture. And the 48-volt architecture allows true drive-by-wire steering. It was the first vehicle to have that, and that has redundancy built in too, because mine has redundancy, but it has a physical steering wheel with a actual mechanical connection there to the wheels. Cybertruck was the first one without it, so you kind of needed that tech to go to something like this. In no way can you have a mechanical connection to any of the wheels there to be able to do what this car needs to do, including fly. So I think I covered everything. If I forgot something, let me know. This has been a long enough video, but I hope it's something you want to share with people that you know. Because yeah, as much as I say I can't prove any of this, I actually think that almost everything I told you is probably going to be correct. The only variable there is going to be when our regulator is going to allow this stuff. It may be that you have this SpaceX package that you can only use on a 1,000-acre ranch or something like that, I don't know. Or actually, here's another thing that you should know. I think that a lot of the features may be geofenced. That's the term people use, because you don't want to blast these cold thrusters near pedestrians or in certain areas where there's residential houses. Like I said, they can't even do that with loud muffled cars nowadays, but they can do that with this. And it'll be geofenced until you get outside of those certain areas. And then you can do what you want, but you're going to have to be really far away from people probably. But hopefully, if the car flies, then you just tell it to fly somewhere, and as long as you don't run out of electricity by then you'll be okay. Or maybe we can just fly you to somewhere to charge, and maybe there needs to be a different charging infrastructure for this. I don't know. Maybe it'll use the same Tesla supercharging infrastructure. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, but I'm looking forward to the unveiling, and I hope it's actually next month. Let me know if you're looking forward to it. Let me know if what your favorite feature is of all the things that I've described in here. And definitely share it with people. Subscribe to us wherever you are, or become a member of the Tesla High Mileage Club, because this thing fits in with both. Like I said, I think this car is going to rack up so many miles so fast if it actually can fly. And then, of course, it's part of the digital nomad lifestyle. It integrates all these different digital technologies into one. This car would never be available, in an analog world. And it kind of, even the picture that I've got here, kind of reminds me more of Back to the Future, when you do time travel. Because in a way, I guess it's kind of like that. It's time travel compared to having to roll on friction tires the whole time. So it's Mike Young signing off. I'll see you out there in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.